Hi, welcome to the Augmentation of Man with Kent and Renee Miller, where we are bringing the future. And today we're going to be talking about
playing the game of life. That's not a game you can go buy at Walmart.
this is serious stuff, actually. So we're going to discuss what the purpose of life is,
how it's set up, supporting factors of it.
Yeah, like this universal structures that support what goes on here on Earth and how that works a little bit.
Yeah, well, not so much the value, but how the vibration of it works.
And how universal laws factor into what happens here on Earth, how we raise our conscious value.
And how do we go forward in what's happening, hopefully.
And how to raise our vibration. You know, a lot of people talk about how raising the vibration, but
they don't know what that means.
It's not a feel-good movement. This is all about the learning, and we're going to get into the nuts and bolts of it today so that you can understand how to raise your consciousness, how life works.
So how do you engage in this life to be able to understand what your purpose is and how life works? How does it work?
And what's the purpose of physical existence?
Yeah, because a lot of people say, why am I even here? Why do I even bother with all this, this stuff that's going on? Why is it affecting me so much? All that.
Especially in these times where it's so chaotic and so polarized, but we're not going to get into that lesson today. We've already covered that.
No, we might get a little bit of it, but we're going to say, what does this mean?
Okay, so we could learn everything that we need to know in the spiritual realm, but why do we come here into a physical existence? And this is called an experiential life field. So where we experience life in a physical realm.
And what do we get from experiencing in the physical realm?
The purpose of it is to raise through our greater understanding, raise our vibration, which has a direct impact on the organic matter that makes up our physical bodies. So when we raise our consciousness, when we raise our vibration, we are also raising the vibration of physical matter, the atoms that make up our bodies. And so it is all connected.
Yeah, so we are continually getting information from the Creator. And it goes down, as we explained before, to different levels of light beings, the ancients, etc. So information travels on this neural network.
But it begins at source.
But the source, or the creator source.
So creator and light beings release
it's called
the new understanding onto source, which is a higher intellectual network.
Okay, you got the creator, you got light beings, you've got the ancients, and all of that comes down to the source, which releases it to them and us.
And the neural net is connected to source. It's all a part of one big network. If you think about like our own bodies and how the blood coming out of the aorta, out of the biggest artery of the heart, goes to large arteries, which go to medium-sized arteries, which go to smaller and smaller arteries. These networks, which go to capillaries. These networks work in much the same way. And so you have this great force of, of energy that comes, that is on source, which is for higher intellectual beings to access. And then as it diffuses and it trickles down as it gets to the neural net. And that's for people such as humans, other entities that are at their younger cultures and they're at a lower level of understanding, so that we can tap into the neural net.
We explained that in one of our videos, how in the electrical term, like goes from the source to your house in electrical.
Right. And so works same way.
Yeah. It gives us available information which we can understand and not spend time researching and researching and researching and not understanding it. Because what value is information if you can't totally understand it?
That's right. So we are not able to tap into source directly because the energy is too intense for our bodies. Our bodies are not acclimated to that type of energy field, for one. And secondly, that information is too highly intellectual for us to understand it. And so we have to tap into like the little capillary of the neuronet, the small tributary of energy that our bodies can
comprehend,
can assimilate without detriment to our neurological system. And when that energy is translated, it's something that our brains can interpret.
Yeah, so we get quick access. How do we get quick access? Well, if you're able to, and I use that term openly, if you're able to quiet your mind, and it's very difficult quieting your mind and listening to the inner voice, the higher self.
That's part of it. And then the neuronet is just tapping in, like Googling something.
It's a big part of it.
It's a big part. If you can't
quiet your mind, you'll never get nothing.
Right. And so there's two aspects of it that we're talking about. The neuronet is the quick access of, it's a very small amount of information. Well, and then when you're communicating with other entities, it starts with a higher self. And then from there, the higher self communicates with other outside entities. When
you make a decision in your life that creates an event, it starts a pathway towards that event. Now, whether you meet that event like you recognize it in the physical self, it may not be. It may go, the event pathway may end up in a spiritual self, which is different. And the spiritual self is to teach you the understanding of the event. And you may not accept that. No, wait a minute. That's like, I put on the same realm as wishing for a Mustang or a Porsche and getting a Volkswagen.
It's what we want to accept.
It's what you want to accept. So it's not always, it's trying to teach you.
And you may be in conflict with your higher self.
Right, in pathway. And so that's what I'm talking about. The physical self usually is in conflict with the higher self.
And that was our last lesson.
Yeah, because it doesn't want to learn.
Mm-hmm. And so we grow in our understanding through the events that are created in this physical existence by our own decision making.
I just said that.
Yes. And we make a decision, and with that decision, we set forth an energy path that is creating an event, whether it's conscious or unconscious. We can be intentional with it, but sometimes we're not intentional with it.
So after the event occurs,
then we have to go back and realize what led up to this event.
Yeah, we have to, if we take the time, we should evaluate each event so we begin to understand why it happened, where it came from, and to recognize each event as they come. Sometimes we don't recognize the event.
And so
well, things that are happening now.
Oh, wow. Yeah, everything that's happening now.
They shouldn't be doing that, or they should be doing this, or this leader should be saying this. We don't recognize the events that are happening as a learning process.
Mm-hmm. We tend to be critical of people, especially the president, right?
Well, everybody, all political leaders, all leaders.
Yes, but the thing is that each event that is being presented to us is for our learning, to bring us up to a level of understanding to start this new cycle, which is going to be even higher level of learning. So we've got to play catch up right now.
Each event we should analyze, and it's called analyzing the different angles of that event, and it's called angular learning.
Mm-hmm.
But if we don't analyze the event, we just criticize it or go pro or con, whichever, we can't learn from that event.
That's right. And so oftentimes these events occur and we are left stunned, wondering what just happened to us. And, you know, possibly with this next US election, we're going to feel the same way. However, what we have to do to learn from the event, not criticize it, not criticize our government, not criticize the event or other people. What we should be doing is asking us, what is it we have to learn from this? And we have to go back to the decisions and the energy pathways that led up to the event to truly understand it.
Yeah.
So we're learning kind of in reverse.
Yeah, and the spiritual guides want to tell us, want to help our thoughts along to understand, expand our understanding. But if we're not willing to open our minds, they cannot help us understand.
No. And so
once the energy system comes to an end,
then we're faced with the next decision.
Yeah.
So how that would work is, say, you know, an event happens and we're stunned by the event and we go, well, what just happened? And so we're backtracking and saying, okay, what led up to this? What happened to this that I was completely unaware of it? This has blown me away. What happened prior to the event
and you may have
that caused the event?
You may have to go back several years to find out the pathway that led to this event. It's not just what happened last year or 4 years ago.
And sometimes decades.
8 years ago or even 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. You may have to go back farther and say, okay, what happened back 25 years ago or 30? What happened after that? What happened then? As you come closer to the event, you'll see why it happened.
Yes, the players and how it was set up and how long ago it was, the decision was made and what events happened after that decision to bring us to this final play of all these plans that have been carefully laid out. And so
once that event ends, and you can understand,
then we have to do the learning.
A brand new event starts
after the learning. Yes. And so after the learning has occurred and we've looked at it from all the various angles, which is angular learning, and then we are presented with the next decision to make.
And your behavior will change as you begin to understand why this event changed.
Yes. And if we don't internalize the lesson, the behavior doesn't change.
Right.
Which is not a good thing.
And these changes can keep you healthier. Your behavior changes can keep you healthier because you won't worry. I think, this is my perspective, that tension and different things that make you worry a lot tend to form cancers in your body.
Well, it leaves you out of balance.
That's what I was going to get to. When you're out of balance, you tend to form diseases that help take over because it depresses your immune system.
So people who are totally in balance have a greater understanding
and a longer life.
Because they're in balance with the understanding. And when you understand what's going on, there's not so much of that inner conflict. There's not that inner turmoil that causes an inflammatory process within the body, and then that leads to disease.
Yeah.
So our learning is in a linear and sequential sort of manner. So one event sets up the stage for the next event to happen. And as we work through these learning processes, or we don't learn, it determines the next event that will follow. And so one example of this is that a decision is made. And in this example, we were talking about something else earlier that was more interesting, but I don't remember what it was. But so a chemical company decides to make a certain chemical to fight weeds or a pest, certain type of pest. And so the farmers are, given all this information about this chemical and how great it is, and they start using it. And then over the years, we start finding out that this chemical has an untoward effect. Perhaps it causes cancer, or perhaps it takes out a chain and link in the biological world, where maybe it kills off entirely a population of other living bugs or animals.
Or it creates a DNA conflict within the DNA system.
Yeah, it can have all kinds of varying effects, but then we learn from that. And then, then the company is forced to stop producing this chemical. And so this is how a decision is made. It plays out. We have to go back and evaluate why that it created that event. And then we change our behavior in a positive way in response to the learning that has occurred.
Now, you said a company stops producing this particular chemical. There's a question mark on that, because if they make more money by somebody else picking up the product and renaming it, and still it's the same bad chemical, they'll do that. They won't stop producing.
But we have to adapt. We have to use our
intelligence and our learning.
That's what I mean. We have to adapt intellectually. We have to be on top of things. And so a lot of the things that are playing out today are a direct result of our not being cognizant of what's going on. We've become too lazy in watching what is going on in our world and keeping track of it and holding people accountable.
We won't do our own research. We refuse to. We have somebody else do our research for us and take their opinion, rather than us getting down, doing our own research and doing our own results on an event, rather than have somebody else do it. We won't do that.
Yeah, we've just become too complacent. Now, other things that factor into this are the planetary alignments creating a changing variable vibrational field. As the alignments change, as they move in their orbits, the vibrational field changes to some degree, and that is influencing the energy on the earth and the events that are able to play out during that particular time frame here on the earth, and it's all related to our learning. The other thing is that there's structures in the atmosphere.
Yeah, no. So things such as asteroids or comets seem to be more commonplace now than some years in the past on our own records. The question is the vibration changing because of humanity's changing vibration? So is the Earth atmosphere changing vibration causing this increase? We don't know the answer to this. Causing an increase in asteroid and comet coming within our solar system or closer to the Earth. We don't know this because we don't know how we know humanity changes its vibration and affects the atmosphere of the Earth, but we don't know to what degree.
But also we were told that there was going to be a parade of many asteroids and comets. And as they travel through space, the movement through space and the vibration on its own matter that it occupies sends out a vibrational field that also has an impact on the surrounding field. And so even things such as asteroids and comets can have an effect on what goes on here on Earth vibrationally. So there's other structures in the universe and even within ourselves. In what it's doing is measuring the understanding both before an event and after event, so that it's measuring vibrationally how we are analyzing our events. And it sets up universally, these structures are out in the atmosphere and you cannot see them, but it sets up and redirects the energy field for the next event to either, one, further our understanding of the current event if we haven't completely come to an understanding of that event, looking at it from all angles, or it sets up the energy pathway for a new event.
Well, consequences are relevant to this whole process. There are consequences to each event. So without consequences, people don't learn and the behavior doesn't change. So we need consequences to teach us, the humans.
Yeah, and without that, then people keep doing things the same old way. And our government is really a part of the lack of consequences. So that, again, that falls back on us because we're not watching and we're not holding them accountable. We elect them, we just vote on superficial things like somebody's personality or how good they look or how well they speak. But what is their voting history? What is what these people have been doing behind the scenes? How is their foundations being, how are their foundations being used? How come they can be in public service for a lifetime, but end up to be multimillionaires? And this is not for us to criticize them. It is for us to question, but it is for us to come to the realization
to learn
that this is a learning process, but also that it is through our own complacency and our ignorance that we have allowed these situations to occur. Yeah. So it really falls back on our conscious level as a society.
And our laziness of not to do our own research.
Right. And so cause and effect come into play.
Yeah, so you can't blame one person for what they did because this goes way back. It goes back many years.
Right.
And we would not do our own research. The more technology came out, the more we fell into the trap of they can do all our research. We would get lazier and lazier.
And we tend to listen to what people tell us as being the truth.
Yeah.
And so
they're like, I'm going to build a porch. Someone asked my neighbor, how do you build this porch? Well, the neighbor says you do this, and this, and this, and this. Now, I don't build it. Then I call a contractor and I said, I want you to do this, 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 and this. I did not do the research and left out the main structure of that porch. You know, and the contractor is not a real contractor. So when you don't do your own research, don't expect the truth.
We have to accept full responsibility. And so gone are the days of pointing the fingers and blaming others. We all have to be responsible in the global mess that we've created is the truth. So
to me, lack of consequences for hundreds of years.
And this has started with the children too, because we want to protect our children.
So we teach
and
them.
we soften the consequences for them because we don't want them to get in trouble. And so what happens is that they learn that they can manipulate the circumstances as they grow up so that they are not held accountable. And this is what creates adults that act in that way. So we really have to teach our children consequences. And it's us to be, as parents and adults in these children's lives, we have to teach them what the consequences are of the decisions that they can make. And then when they are fully informed and they make their decision, if they make a decision that results in a consequence, let them feel their consequence because that's how they learn.
So with all that said, a new cycle is starting. And so this new cycle will bring, hopefully, will bring a higher learning.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to understand that in order to expand our consciousness, we have to raise our vibration.
Mm-hmm.
And if we never raise it, we'll never learn.
And we have to understand also that cause and effect come into play in this game of life, where cause is always about what we need to learn, and effect is the actual understanding that has been attained. And so just finishing up on universal structures, this one structure that I was talking about is called the proclamation of angulation, and that's the structure out in the universe that actually measures the energy field before and after an event and redirects the energy pathway toward the next event, either to further our understanding of the past event or to create a new event.
You mean the mentors taught us angulation of proclamation and what it means?
Yes, that's true.
We did not come up with that. Our mentors. The meditation came up with that definition of what it means. So
that's right.
We can't take
credit for
any of this.
We've been taught.
And
then we are being asked to teach it. And so to raise our vibration is through our expanding understanding. So when people talk about, well, I'm going to raise my vibration by just putting it out there, by feel good sort of movement,
well, that's what it
temporary. It's very temporary. It's not a long-lasting effect. To have a long-lasting effect on your vibration, to truly raise your vibration at the soul level, it means that we have to do the internal introspection, learning from the events in our lives individually and collectively, raising our vibration, because as we understand, we grow in our understanding, we get a vibrational attunement, and that's how we raise our vibration on the long-term level.
Yeah, we have a public discourse discussing the events we have created. What decisions led to, as we said earlier, what decisions led up to the event? And have we learned from the event? Have we learned from the events that happened in 2020? Have we learned why they happened?
No, not quite.
No, and we're still doing this.
And so,
are we going to do? Is humanity going to continue to do what they have been doing for months and not learn anything? So whether they burn down cities or bringing in National Guard or whatever, have they learned from these events? I don't think they have yet.
No, and sometimes it takes years of going back and digesting what happened prior to an event, and what were the circumstances that led to that final event. So we have to do the internal work. That's all there is to it. And then what happens is that as we're doing the internalization, and we're looking at it from different angles as we're doing it, and then we will have spiritual guidance come in, and they start feeding us thoughts. And these are telepathic thoughts that we don't actually necessarily recognize as our own. I mean, not as our own. We think of them as our own, but they help to shed light on and expand our understanding.
The bottom line is, once we learn from the event, will we do it differently next time?
That's right.
Will we do it differently?
And so
in the future.
And then, we have to really focus on everything going on in our world, watching and observing and holding people accountable to the truth, but also to do what is right.
And the question is how much truth do you want to portray? Do you want to continue telling what you think, which is not the truth? And people will say, oh, yeah, that person did this, that person did that. Are we going to research and find out the truth behind what really has happened? Are we going to vote the same way year after year just because we want to join a team, whether it be Democrat, Republican, or whatever, independent, whatever? are we going to join that team? And no matter what is running or who is running or it is running or whatever, we're going to vote for that team because we want to be part of that team. That is not truth. That is not raising your level of consciousness to who you are. If you don't care about where you're going, then go ahead and do it. But to move forward in your structure and your thinking process and your learning, then you have to stand back and look at what is happening.
This is
we got to stop.
This is a huge event. What is going on in the U.S. and worldwide?
It's worldwide.
This is worldwide because you can see similarities between major countries. What is going on is not unique to the United States. This is a worldwide event. This is a huge event for humanity right now that is going to push us forward in our level of understanding, but we have to consciously move away from our polarized biases in order to see the bigger picture, because it's not, if you were in this spirit realm, you're not going to be Democrat or Republican. You're going to be independent in your thinking, and you're going to be analyzing the full picture. So there are parts of and it's okay to be Democrat or Republican, but we have to move toward the center, because if we don't, we're too biased to see the truth.
Yeah, the center has truth.
Yes.
The true center has truth.
Because you can look at both sides.
Then we understand our purpose here and why we're here. Then we're here to learn, basically.
And so when we understand what our purpose is, why we're here, when we understand the structures that help facilitate our learning process and that drive energy pathways in the events that happen.
We can be individuals, and we can be individuals on a collective sense.
Yes. Then that is what is going to propel us forward exponentially and create that quantum leap into the next cycle. That's where we need to be.
So Renee and I have been discussing this, and as you know, we have different thoughts on the processes and what caused an event to happen and where it may go, because we're individuals, but yet we come together collectively in a thought saying, okay, let's discuss this. And you can discuss this with those that don't believe the same as you. You can have a affirmative discussion on how you both can come together, or how your group and another group can come together to help solve these issues in the world.
That's right, because it's not one side or the other. It's a blend of the two sides that make the whole picture.
That's right.
And the truth is going to be a blend of the two sides.
Yeah.
The resolution to the problems that exist in our society is going to be a blend of both sides.
And it doesn't matter,
one or the other.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what race you are, or what country you're from, or what you have done in your life. It's a matter of saying, okay, let's take these two sides and blend them, and let's come up with something that works for both sides, or for all humanity. It is not one side or the other, because we will never get anywhere if we continue to take sides.
Yes. And so we should be looking at it in the frame of mind of what is for the better good of society.
So we are all on this world humans. Whether we look totally different than the next person and the next entity, we are all basic organic matter, which we call humans or entities.
And it's all a spiritual learning that is taking place in a physical field to raise the vibration of matter. And so we hope that you've enjoyed this. We hope that we haven't confused you.
Yeah, we hope in our discussions and arguments about certain events or items, we have constructive
Discourse.
Discourse, yes.
And we encourage public discourse. It is good to get as many minds into the discussion so that we can help others to see it from different angles.
Collectively, we can
and
come
collectively
to a solution.
we can see the larger picture.
Yeah.
And so that's the beauty of discourse.
And free will.
And free will.
Yeah.
So to shut down speech is not going to help us one iota in our conscious evolution. Anyway, thank you for joining us. And as always, peace be with you on your journey to enlightenment. Have a great weekend. Take care.